Patients often tell me, "Doctor, my mood is low." The reality? We, as psychiatrists, psychologists, even as friends, often misunderstand what that really means. Because mood is not the same as happiness. It's not even the same as sadness. And if we confuse those signals, treatments fail. In this video, I'll show you the science of mood, why your brain doesn't care about making you happy, how dopamine actually sets your emotional tone, and why chasing euphoria with drugs or stimulants so often backfires. And towards the end, you'll see why the real secret to mood isn't about feeling good, it's about predictability. And that changes how we approach treatment entirely. For decades, psychiatry has framed mood as something to be improved or stabilized. But the brain didn't evolve to keep you happy. It evolved to predict so that you could survive by matching expectations with outcomes. That's the hidden function of mood. In this video, here's what we'll unpack. The difference between mood, emotion, and affect. How dopamine actually works in two modes, tonic and phasic. Why mood is really a byproduct of exploratory versus conservative behavior. And finally, what this means in the clinic, how to interview patients differently, and why treatment should aim for predictability, not euphoria. And I hope by the end, you'll never hear the words, "my mood is low," in the same way again. I'm Dr. Sanil Rege, consultant psychiatrist and educator. So let's start off with, what do we really mean by mood? There are three words that people often blur together: mood, emotion, and affect. Mood is short-lived, low intensity, no object. You can wake up in a low mood without any obvious reason. It's the climate, not the weather. Emotion, on the other hand, is tied to meaning, derived from physiological signals. Damasio said, "Emotions play out in the theater of the body. Feelings play out in the theater of the mind." And finally, we have affect, the raw integration of body signals, what we call interoception, and the environment, what we call exteroception. This is about valence and arousal combined, the meaning that we put on that arousal. And here's the key, none of these exist to make you happy. They're signals, but let's see what they're really signaling. Ask yourself this, if the brain was built for happiness, why do so many species survive without it? That's because the brain evolved to predict, match expectation to outcome, conserve energy when predictions fail, explore when predictions succeed. Mood is the rolling estimate of prediction success versus failure. So when a patient says my mood is low, it's often the brain reporting, my predictions aren't working, my environment feels uncomfortable, effort won't pay off. How does the brain calculate that? The answer is dopamine. Most people think dopamine equals pleasure. Wrong. It equals prediction error. We have two modes of dopamine release. Phasic dopamine, quick bursts when something is better than expected. Note, not about positive or negative, just something different than expected. 2. Tonic dopamine, the steady baseline that sets how responsive you are to those bursts. Let me give you a metaphor. Low tonic dopamine is like damp wood. Even a spark won't catch. High tonic dopamine is like dry wood. The same spark ignites easily. Over time, repeated sparks fold into a baseline. That's why routines, morning coffee, daily walk, become satisfying. Not because of the object, but because of the predictability. Your brain rewards predictability. And this is why the system doesn't actually want euphoria, it wants predictability. But let's explore why. Think of mood not as pleasure, but as policy. The brain constantly balances exploration and conservation. Exploration is seeking novelty, information, and potential reward. Conservation, reduce risk, save energy, avoid threat. Mood is the byproduct of this dynamic. So good mood is environments predictable, exploration safe, and effort pays off. Low mood, environments uncertain. Conserve resources until it's safer. So here's a clinical reframe. There's no such thing as improving mood in the abstract. Stimulants can induce euphoria. Benzodiazepines can relieve tension. Now patients can interpret this as, my mood's better. But unless these states are paired with activity in a predictable context, patients will return to you saying, my mood isn't the same, it's low again. So how do we recognize when the system is in go mode versus no-go mode. That's when D1 and D2 receptors come in. The go, no-go circuits. D1 versus D2. Here's where the science meets clinical practice. The D1 or direct pathway is go, initiation, vigor, and action selection. Whilst D2, the indirect pathway, is no-go, restraint, cost sensitivity, avoidance. Chronic negative prediction errors, mismatches, they bias towards D2, no-go. Clinically, this shows up as psychomotor slowing, inertia, and reduced initiation. So therefore, restoring small, reliable wins shifts policy towards D1, the go state. Suddenly, effort feels worth it again. But it's not just about receptors. Whole brain networks are involved. So let's zoom out and look at these networks. Why do depressed patients ruminate endlessly but struggle to start tasks? The answer lies in networks. Default mode network, DMN, self-focus, rumination. Executive control network, ECN, planning, goals, executive function. And third, salience network. Salience decides when to switch between DMN and ECN. Low mood can be because the salience network's stuck and the default mode network dominates. So therefore, adjusting dopamine, tonic and phasic dopamine can improve the salience network's ability to switch, reducing rumination and enabling task engagement. We can do this through the use of dopaminergic and noradrenergic potentiators. So how do we implement the right tonic and phasic balance in real life? This is where routines matter more than people realize. Here's the paradox. The brain doesn't actually want pleasure. It wants predictability. Because predictability stabilizes tonic dopamine. So on this tonic dopamine, we can now have small surprises, phasic bursts, which can feel rewarding. Because what we've done through predictability is lifted the tonic baseline dopamine. If there are too many surprises, that's chaos. If there are too few, that's flatness. The sweet spot is routines with measured novelty. In other words, certainty and uncertainty. You see, drug-induced euphoria short-circuits this. It creates massive phasic surges uncoupled from context. The brain learns value appears without effort. Over time though, natural rewards are devalued. This is why stimulant highs or benzodiazepine relief or addictive substances can't restore mood. They distort prediction learning. So if euphoria is not the goal, what is? It's behavioral activation. And here, monotony is medicine. Doses of monotony are an important part of life. Patients often wait for motivation to act, but in reality it's the other way around. Repeated actions build tonic dopamine. First, flat, unrewarding, but with repetition, baseline rises. Later, sparks land again. Effort feels worth it. So what does this look like? Examples include daily 10-minute walk, scheduled work sprint, regular meal times. This is why we must ask patients not just, did you feel better, but what did you do with that feeling? Because what's important is not about feeling better, but doing better. Because unless mood changes are coupled to function, they rarely last. So this takes us to clinical practice. How should we interview differently? Instead of asking, how's your mood? Try asking about signals. Ask about, where do small efforts pay off? Where do they fail? Think about sleep, inflammation, pain, metabolic instability. Ask, do you avoid effort because it won't pay? Or because you're too depleted to try? Think about network dynamics. How sticky is your rumination? What flips you into task focus? Which routines used to be satisfying? Reframe common statements. Doctor, can you improve my mood? You see, I can produce euphoria or give relief. But the real question is whether those states translate into activity and predictability, because that's what's required for long-lasting improvement or relief. My mood was better. The question is, better how? So let's look at pharmacology in a bit more detail. Medications are state shifters. The key is how we pair them with activity. Stimulants, they increase phasic and tonic dopamine, but they must be tied to goals. Benzodiazepines reduce threat weighting, but they must be tied to exposure and skills. SSRIs and SNRIs shift future reward confidence and signal to noise. They must be used to re-engage routines. Any pharmacological lift must be paired with predictable behavioral anchors. Otherwise, it decouples from function and collapses back into my mood is low. So here's the 6-step practical protocol. First, stabilize tonic dopamine. Adequate sleep, adequate light, meals, reduce pain, address inflammation. 2, install predictable routines, small, repeated anchors, and build on them. Third, engineer micro surprises, tolerable novelty within predictable routines. Fourth, couple medication-induced states to functional tasks. Fifth, pace the prediction error. Not too little, not too much. We don't want to overwhelm the brain such that it feels insurmountable. And sixth, measure function, not feelings, activity, duration, the next day carryover. So let me summarize all of this for you. The next time you hear my mood is low, don't think happiness, don't think sadness. Think signals, predictions, and targets. Mood is the byproduct of a brain balancing exploration with conservation inside a predictable environment. Our job is to help reduce uncertainty, rebuild predictability, and engineer achievable wins. And here's the irony. When the system is repaired, patients rarely say, "I'm happy now." They say, "I'm getting things done again." This is the true leading indicator. Mood follows always as the byproduct. If you found this video useful, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. For clinicians, explore more in-depth frameworks at the Academy by Psych scene. I'm Dr. Sanil Rege, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, stay curious. Bye-bye.